right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the Esports Academy webinar here with Magic Gaming, sponsored by Florida Blue. I'm Harris Rubenstein. With me today is a very special guest, and I'm going to say her name right because this is how she told me to say it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Halina Malik, the current director of content at eFuse. A very good and old friend of mine. Great to see you again, Halina. I feel like I've heard your life story 2 or 3 times already, but I'm very excited to hear it again today. How's your 2022 been?
You poor thing. No, I'm so excited, and I'm so excited Magic Gaming had me. I love everything to do with the 2K League, and Dan's been incredible through this journey. So it's also great to talk to you again, Harris, and can't wait to talk more with you. But my year's been going really well, and excited for what 2023 brings. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now you obviously have a extensive esports background. Obviously, you were with the 2K League a couple years ago, working with Cavs Leafs and GC as their content manager. But even before I knew you, you've been a legend in the space for a long time. So take me back to the very beginning for you. How did you even learn about what esports was, and like what got you really into this in the beginning?
Yeah, legend's a loose term, but you're so fabulous at what you do. Thank you so much. Um, no, I've always really loved gaming, and gaming's always been a part of my life in some form or fashion. Grew up playing Call of Duties, right? Mario's. Like, you go back, and I was playing Tetris, right, when I was
Mhm.
young, and Galaga was a big one for me. But in high school, there was a gaming cafe that opened up coincidentally right around the corner from my house in Pittsburgh,
Cool.
Pennsylvania. So it was about like a 2-minute drive. And so I got to go there and test out more games. They had Xbox 360s, right? They had all the cool stuff. And so instead of buying games at GameStop for $60 a pop to just test them and see if I like them, I got to go down to this cafe for $3 an hour
Cool.
and test it out. So that's kind of how I got my start into like gaming more as a whole, or like the ecosystem as a whole. And while I was there, they had a ton of Call of Duty, Halo tournaments that were just local to the area that were like $500 to $1,000 cash prizes. And so I started entering into those just because it was really small. I thought I had a good chance of winning, and I was right because I was winning a couple of those here and there for Call of Duty in particular, and ended up really falling in love with the game Call of Duty. And with that whole new friendship and ecosystem that the LAN center brought, I had formed some teams, and we went to compete at Call of Duty tournaments at MLG Columbus and MLG Philly. And it kind of, my playing career kind of just sprouted from that, where it was
Mhm.
like my buddies from Pittsburgh that we would just get into a car, right, and go
Right.
try our hand,
Yeah,
at
give it a
MLG.
go.
But
Have some fun. Yeah.
we'll give it a go. And we did. We gave it a really good shot. But it was even better for me professionally. Um, and I didn't even know that it was networking at the time, but now I look back 10 years ago, and it
Yep.
was networking. Meeting everybody, shaking their hands, meeting org owners, like talking to people in the scene, and going to every event just in my car, right, with my group of buddies. But it ended up being networking. And so that's kind of how I got my start into like the esports ecosystem, was really kind of grassroots and organic.
It's so interesting that, a couple things there about, first of all, Call of Duty. I feel like every single person that we bring on here always talks about how Call of Duty had some sort of impact on them to start, whether it was like their first multiplayer game, or that was where they started competitively, or even on the management side. It's fascinating that game keeps coming up. But what more interesting to me is that you're talking about this gamer cafe in Pittsburgh. Now, those cafes, for anybody that's watched any documentary on esports ever, very common overseas, right? You see it way more in Europe. You see it way more in Eastern Asia. Don't see it a lot in the States. So not just the odds that you got one, but in Pittsburgh of all cities. No offense to Pittsburgh, but not
No,
exactly
that
what I would assume is like a gaming capital of the East Coast. That the chances of that are pretty nuts.
it was insane, and it was even crazier because it was on my normal route.
Mhm.
Like every day, no matter where I went, that was the road that we turned on, either to the pizza place or the grocery store. Any route, you had to pass by this place to get there. And I would know if there's like this big store that popped up with this gaming logo there. Like I was like, what is this? Immediately walked into their grand opening on the day of
Mhm.
their grand opening and just said like, what is this? I'm enamored. I don't know what it is, but I need to be here right now. So I was
So
very lucky.
No, you've been a huge proponent, at least, during my time, our time together during the league, and obviously extended. Then you've been such a huge proponent of like women in gaming and women in esports, and clearly you've been at the very beginning of that. What was your experience like in the very beginning of your entrances? Was it just like, oh my god, everybody here loves games, or like kind of how was your experience getting into it, especially in such a competitive environment, playing Call of Duty, against the big guns?
Yeah, I was the only woman in the room for a long
Cool.
period of time.
That's
for,
badass.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a while. I mean, and I struck out like a sore thumb,
Mhm.
but it was a lot of fun though. I had some really great male allies who they were also like very protective of me too,
Mhm.
right? When we would go to like MLG events, like if anyone was like, they were just very protective of me, making sure
Mhm.
that I was okay. And so I went into this whole esports ecosystem already with a support system from my hometown,
Mhm.
and that I think for me was this massive unlocking, that these guys, this like weird bro code, right? They're like, yeah, we vouch for her, she's just as good as the guys,
Yeah.
right? But in reality, it was a really nice support system of people who had my back. And I recognize and realize that not every woman gets that opportunity, to like they have to do it by themselves. They don't
Yeah.
have a support system like that. And so I want to be that support system or help grow those support systems for women to
Mhm.
make sure that they have ample opportunity, the same as I did, to be able to compete safely.
Mhm. Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's the most important part. I like what you mentioned about how like kind of having that circle and that community around you is such a huge part of it. And as esports has kind of continued to grow, that kind of idea of community building has really been, I would say, the staple of even our academy series here. Just talking about building up those communities, giving opportunities to everyone. Then, speaking of opportunities, you were definitely on the player side. You're getting in on it, but at some point, something shifted to you. It's like, all right, it's content time, and you don't end
Yeah.
up as the content manager for an NBA esports team or the director of content of eFuse without having some sort of inherent talent at it. So when you first got into it, were you like immediately the greatest, or did you just kind of figure it out as slowly as the rest of us?
I first and foremost recognized that I was getting pretty bad at the game, and I knew it was time to make a shift, right?
There
Like
you
I
go.
was not gonna go and make hundreds of thousands of dollars
Mhm.
competing. Like my skill level was just not there. I did, well for a certain amount of time, and but I was going to college
Mhm.
and was getting my marketing degree, and just kind of knew that something needed to change. And so the same organization that I played for, which was called Panda Gaming, I played for them for a certain amount of time. They let me in behind the scenes, and I was doing their partnership pitches. I was helping with their marketing decks. I basically ask the owners like, how can I also contribute and get experience and learn, because I know I'm not going to play forever. I know I'm not going to even play for the next couple of years, so how can I start to make this transition? And they really helped me with that. I was in their pitches. I had access to their graphic designers and their creative team, so I kind of had the people who could create what I was thinking in my head and put it on paper, right?
Mhm.
um, and again, like I think I just like keep getting lucky.
I was
I
gonna
just
say you really opened up with all the tools in the toolbox, huh? They gave you
Yeah,
all the
I know.
editors, the partnership decks. That's hands on.
No, it was a lot of fun, and that experience of being in pitches and nailing deals and leveraging those creative teams, that really is what I think sold the Cavaliers on choosing me in the first place. Is okay, she's been in pitches, she's actually closed deals, she's leveraged the creative teams and the content teams to be able to um, market to a younger audience while also, um, having a sponsorship, right, or a partnership and bringing that brand to life as well. So I had plenty of those examples. Like at Panda, we had, those energy drinks that we would plug, or apparel companies that
Mhm.
we would do partnerships with. And so I actually had tangible examples that I got to bring the Cavs and said, hey, here, look what I did. Look what the problems that I solved,
Mhm.
with my team, right? Understanding that I'm not the one actually creating these with my graphic design skills. Sometimes I did, but it was more so like, how can I bring an idea and be that in between of partnerships and marketing?
So when you were first coming up in the space before the Cavs side, on the content side, you're doing all this stuff. Was there a accomplishment that you had? You're allowed to brag here, that kind of early on where it kind of like gripped you, right? Where it's like, oh, I can actually do this. Like this kind of locks in like what I want to do going forward. What was that accomplishment for you? All of our guests seem to have like that one, like it gripped them deep down kind of
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. We were in MLG. We were at an MLG event in Atlanta, and for Panda Gaming, and we had a pro team there that was up against Optic Gaming, so it was a really big deal. They played on main stage, and so there were the camera operators and Adam Apicella from who now owns Esports Engine, right? But he founded MLG, so
Hmm.
there's all these people there, and they're asking us all about Panda, and we had about 30 volunteer Panda staff members like flood the couple front rows
Hmm.
for that Optic Panda main stage game, and we got the crowd going. We brought the Panda mascots. We actually had like the only mascot in the venue was like this
That's
big
cool.
panda with the panda head, and so everyone was looking at us and being like, "Who is Panda? Why are all these people like screaming and chanting like Panda? Like how are they even important?" But we brought the house there. We had the mascot. We were he had the meta gaming jersey,
Hmm.
so we were promoting meta threads, right, like the whole time, and people were just like, who are these guys, like
Yeah.
what is happening
Who are
here? And
these
so that
panda people?
who are these panda people? And so that was kind of our big moment, was playing against Optic and getting everybody really hyped for Panda and kind of putting them on the map, and we got a lot of airtime that tournament too. And so
Hmm.
that was a really successful moment for us, is
That's
bringing the
cool.
mascot, bringing the house down in that event.
I like that. Did you guys beat Optic or no?
It was the most heartbreaking game 5, round
Ah.
11 S&D match,
Ah.
1v1. It came down
Ah.
to karma, and we had a gentleman who was on our team fastball. It came down to like the most brutal of brutal heartbreaks ever. But it was so close, and they did a great job.
Good. It's clearly well enough to lock it in. I like that story. That's good. I can imagine just a bunch of panda people like running around an esport venue. But
And they're like, "Who are these people? Like how did this happen?"
as fun as that is, it seems that kind of through your jobs, you've gotten a little bit more corporate. Kind of as the years have gone on. I don't know if you're running, having people run around in panda costumes anymore, but you jump from a very, very esports kind of centric, right, like full gaming mode. Then you jump over to the NBA. You get over to the Cleveland Cavaliers. At the time you're jumping over, right? They have LeBron James. They're making finals every year. It's like this is one of the, I would say, spotlighted NBA teams. What was it like going from like a very esports based company to, oh my God, it's the NBA? What was there a gap to be filled there, or were you just like locked in, ready to go?
Yeah, season 1 was it was an educational moment, I
Hmm.
think, for both myself and the Cavs, right? Of like me educating them on the demographic and how esports audiences like to be marketed to, right? And then the tools that we use to market to them, like what Discord is, right? And like all of that stuff. And it was very educational for myself as well. Like I got to really be with the best of the best in terms of staff. Like
Hmm.
they have a world-renowned like content QTV team that makes incredible content, and I got to really learn from the best of the best. So season 1 was like a lot of education both ways. And then season 2 was all about, okay, now how do we differentiate ourselves and put ourselves as the number one NBA 2K League team,
Hmm.
and how do we go about doing that? And so uh, every year was just more learning opportunities and trying to make sure that we plotted ourselves as number one, even if we're not number one on the court,
Hmm.
right? How could we be number one off the court?
I have to ask you about the COVID stuff. You're
Yeah.
in the middle of like this crazy run,
Oh,
season 1, season 2, we're all ramped up for season 3. I mean, heck, we were all in the same Twitter DM group at one time, just like all freaking out. From your perspective, you're the content manager, you probably have all these plans. How did you gear shift into something else in COVID, while also recognizing the mental health aspect of, oh my God, there's a global pandemic going on. What are we supposed to be doing? Like, how are you keeping all those balls up in the air?
yeah, I mean, it definitely threw a lot of wrenches into our plans, right?
Hmm.
So it was such sad timing. We had just opened our land facility that we called
Hmm.
the lair,
Yep.
right? So we had just opened the lair, and I was working with the Cavs. We developed a whole website for it where somebody could come and schedule bookings, and so it was a massive, massive, massive disappointment, because I really feel like that website could have popped off, and we would have had some great bookings and everything. And that
Hmm.
was, I think, the biggest heartbreak, is we just worked for, an entire season to prepare this land facility,
Hmm.
and get it ready for launch and private events. And all of a sudden COVID happens, and it kind of breaks that. But we still wanted to be innovative. We didn't really know what would happen, right? Like a lot of teams downsized in COVID, and,
Yep.
and rightfully so, right? Because the world froze, the world stopped. So we were just figuring out first how to make sure that the players got the most competitive environment possible, and making sure that they could play okay, and making sure everyone was safe. So that was the biggest hurdle, is making sure with Cavs security, how and Cavs cleaning crews, how we could make sure that their facilities were safe, and everybody was safe and be able to play okay. So massive challenges, and those types of things you don't expect, right? One day you're creating a website for a layer, and the next you are looking up cleaning crews and making sure the janitor can come, every other day to clean. So
Yes.
it was just a lot.
Similar story. We were remaking the 2K League website so that it would pull in everything from the arena that they built for season 3. One day you go from building the 2K League website to all of a sudden you have 3 PCs casting the Winter Classic out of your 1920s New Jersey apartment, and the whole internet crashes in our entire building. So COVID was a lot of fun for everyone. We all have these like
Yeah,
wild stories.
it's crazy. And with the rules of being away from the players, right? Like we couldn't have our videographer at the time, anywhere close to the players, and so
Mhm.
we had to be really, really creative and innovative to even be able to cover our games the same way. And so it was just a lot of strategizing and figuring out what was going to happen. But COVID, yeah, was. I mean, it's incredibly scary
Mhm.
for everybody, right, at the time. And I'm just proud of the team for
Mhm.
persevering.
And hey, persevere. You did. But at the end of the day, you end up moving on from the NBA 2K League. You jump over to where you are now, heading up content at eFuse. But you've had a cool little, I don't want to say call it a little promotion, a big promotion, going from manager to director. Now, again, you you know the corporate cronies of the world, kind of love the director title. But what have you noticed? Different in job responsibilities. Are you managing more people? Like, what has it been kind of climbing that corporate ladder? But from like the esports perspective, is it any different? Is it like, how do you think it compares with the rest of the world?
Yeah, this is a completely different ballgame.
Hmm.
With the Cavs and with the NBA 2K League teams, like the esports teams are very small. You can
Hmm.
see a staff of like 2, 3, full-time folks. Right now, we have a company of 100 full-time employees here at
Wow.
eFuse, and yeah, so I mean, and I've seen the growth of it, for the past 2 years since I've been here, and I think I was employee number 26 or around that 20 number, and I've seen it grow to 100 employees now. And so just keeping up with the insane amount of demand and growth that we've been having at eFuse, and trying to get ahead of it, right?
Hmm.
And who can we bring in that has that expertise, and solving industry solutions and problems. It's a completely different set of circumstances than being a part of an org or a team. Like with an org or a team, you have a completely different understanding of the industry, and you want to be competitive, and you want to grow your fandom, right? And for eFuse, it's completely different. We're focused on technology solutions and automation for the esports industry, and
Hmm.
so clients would be like publishers, or sometimes even teams, but mainly publishers, brands, and that's kind of our clientele now. So the sentiment stays the same. Like I'm still in the esports industry, but
Hmm.
it's just a different ball game that I'm playing now, of being with a team versus a kind of a tech company in esports.
Do you miss the more competitive team based side of it, or have you gone full corporate crony and you're just out here with your pitch decks and your big words and your titles and whatever? Are you leaving us gamers in the past?
No, no, we host a lot of tournaments actually, and it's a ton of fun that we actually get to create those opportunities now
Cool.
for players. So a lot of like what I do, is content for our events and our tournaments.
Mhm.
And so I'm still having interviews with players, and I'm still kind of like in the nitty gritty, and making sure that our tournaments are fair, and people have opportunity, right? So there's still a lot of that boots on the ground work that I really like, especially in the collegiate market. We
Hmm.
own and operate a lot of collegiate properties, and that I think is really exciting to me, and kind of how I get my boots on the ground more so.
Get your kicks in on the competitive side. You can't leave it too much behind, right?
Never, never. I'm too competitive to ever let it go.
I know
I
that. I know that firsthand. So, you have this big title now. You're at this cool, cool company. You guys are growing like crazy. You're still pretty young to be in your position, right? It's kind of, that's one of the opportunities that esports gives young people, is the ability to like kind of grow through this pretty fast. What's it like for you, still kind of probably looking at yourself like a young person, but now you're in charge of mentoring people who are even younger than you, whether it's, interns or coordinators or, entry-level employees. Like, is it kind of weird having to be that leader for people? Do you have leaders in your life who are still there for you? Like, how do you kind of be, I guess, the middleman at this point in your career?
Yeah, I'm managing people who are older than me. So, there's,
That's
so
also a fun wrinkle. Yeah.
yeah, so it is interesting. It comes with like a lot of I am definitely very young for a leader, but I think that I have a lot to give. I think I have a lot of industry knowledge to spread, and I think my team sees that, and my company sees that, and that's kind of why they've been putting me through the ranks. Is I do have 10 years of actual industry experience, and 6 of that being post college, and so I know
Mhm.
that's like it's pretty young, right? But for esports, it kind of stacks and kind of
That's a
adds
lot.
up.
Like
So
six years puts us at 2016. That's like the very beginning of esports becoming mainstream. That's not crazy at all.
yeah, so it's you know, but while nonetheless, I do see a lot of opportunity for myself to grow and develop and kind of like earn the title that I've been given, right?
Mhm.
So, and I do recognize that completely. So I have a lot of room to grow still, and it's great for both the Cavs and eFuse now to like take that chance on me and kind of see that potential and start molding me.
Mhm.
I still have my mentors from my time at the Cavs, and they're still there for me whenever I need them, and having that professional network of mentors even outside of
Mhm.
eFuse has really helped me a lot in kind of managing people, right, and different personalities and even departments that I might not have had experience with managing before. So it's all growth opportunities. And
Mhm.
one of our sayings at eFuse is embrace growth, right? So, uh,
Very tech of
I'm
you. Very
very
tech
tech.
of you.
So I'm definitely embracing growth.
You've been on this incredible journey through esports. You got this great job now. You've been, such a leader in the space. What do you want out of esports next? You've given so much. Eventually, it is time to take. Like, is there something that you want? Is there like a golden coin in the sky that you're trying to grab? Like, what would be your like big next goal that you're trying to hit?
I love that. It's such a great question. And really where my mind goes when you ask that is like what does the industry need and
Hmm.
like what do we need to like progress? And right now it's orgs and teams profitability. And
Hmm.
so, we're seeing a lot of orgs and teams either shut down or let go of staff or just have an issue of profitability in general. And so through eFuse, like, something eventually we'd love to try to tackle is like how do we solve those types of industry problems for
Hmm.
orgs and teams. And so while I don't have the solution, like I want to be a part of building the solution
Hmm.
and figuring out what additional revenue streams might look like or figuring out, how we can offload some of the crazy expenses that teams have and supplementing that with other solutions. But I just, my mind goes to 100 different
Hmm.
things, but I want stability in esports. So
Hmm.
I want, profitability and stability for everyone in the space. And so it's a lofty goal. It's a
Oh
little
yeah.
big fruity dream, right? But I'm super into it, and I want everybody to succeed. So.
Hey, esports and money problems. The tale is all this time at this point.
Yeah.
So let's shift to the mental health aspect of this. You again have been a huge proponent in the space of I would say just kind of taking care of yourself, being your own person when it comes to getting into this field. How do you kind of balance and stay level through all the stuff that you have to deal with? A lot more responsibilities now, a lot of gravity around the decisions that you make. How do you kind of handle it all behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, uh, there's only so many things you can do, right?
Hmm.
That you
Of
can
course.
control, I should say, because there's a lot of things you can't control. And mental health is a big thing. I've been going through, my own, personal mental health issues. Somebody who's, I am gay, right? I do have my own mental health issues. Also, like diagnosed anxiety, right? All of that stuff. Like I am working through and have been working through for a long time. And there's not a one size fits all approach for everybody, but there's like little small things that you can do. Therapy being a really big one. And I've been going to therapy for quite some time. It's been helping me a lot. Um, so that's a big thing. For me, something small, right? Because not everybody can afford therapy. I
Mhm.
understand that that's a very privileged solution that I'm bringing up. Um, but something small is wherever you work, separating that from where you sleep
Mhm.
was a big thing for me, so that I don't get bogged down or develop any like poor physical habits. So like right here in my office, I have is separate than my bedroom where I used to have like my setup in my bedroom, and that wasn't the best thing for like my physical and mental health.
Mhm.
So just having those like little separate spaces. So like the bigger thing being therapy. I think, I want affordable therapy for
Of
all, right?
course.
That'd be great. But the small things you can do is just, going outside for a little bit, right? Like 5 minutes a day. And, just separating your work quarters from your sleeping quarters if possible.
Have you found that, you being, a director in the space, you having people that work under you, again, both older than younger, do you find that your employees come to you with these mental health problems? Maybe, obviously when we were coming up, that was way more taboo. Like everybody was like locked in, siloed in. But, it's 2022 now. How have you as a director kind of seen the mental health space really evolve over these past couple of years?
Yeah, I love it. I don't know if it's because we work in gaming or because my team might be younger, but everyone is like very open and communicative, and I'm also very open and communicative. Like I am not shy. I will tell the world anything, right?
Really? Couldn't tell. I couldn't tell.
Me,
No way. No way.
me, no way. So I'm very open, and I think it allows people to be open with me as well. And I also want to help them succeed and help them grow. And what's really nice, eFuse again, like very privileged. Like we have this unlimited PTO policy, so we can take off when we need to take off, or if somebody needs a mental health day, like we respect that as a company. I respect that, and making it not taboo and making sure we bring it up. I know this is like super corporate, and but we have,
We're
in
all
our
corporate
one-on-ones.
in a
I know,
little bit,
I
we're
know.
all a little corporate now. See, it's so funny. You used to be like such a big gamer. Look at you, Call of Duty
I
playing, and now look at you.
am.
This is a corporate
I'm
robot.
losing it. I'm losing it.
Losing your
Uh,
edge.
losing it. Now I gotta get it back. I'm gonna go
What?
shoot some bots in Call of Duty after this.
There you go.
Uh, but what we have in our one-on-ones every week is we have our personal and professional highs and lows, and that's
Cool.
a part of our one-on-ones. And so it kind of introduces that conversation and normalizes that conversation too. And so just normalizing discussing those things, because like there are personal things that will bleed into your work, right?
Mhm.
And making sure that you're happy and healthy is priority.
And I think also a big part of mental health and the evolution of it has been understanding like individual people's contexts, right? And the more you share and the more you open up, obviously, with your bosses and with the people you work with, the easier that context is to understand. Because if something happens to you down the line and I know the context of, your situation, I can help you out a little bit more. And it used to be so taboo. Like all of a sudden you just come to your boss with a problem. They're like, oh, well, where did this come from? You were fine yesterday. It's like, no, these things aren't so simple. They're much more complex than that. So, couple of final questions before we poke out of here. I asked about your big goals. You talked about the team profitability. Let's talk about esports as a whole. A lot of issues that esports are going to have to solve over the next couple of years. But outside of money, because more money, more problems. That's just everything.
Sure.
From a community building space, what do you think the biggest roadblock is going to be for whether it's specific esports or just the space in general? Like, what are some of those issues that they're going to face as we try to get this bigger and bigger?
Yeah, I think inclusivity, is a really big one, and
Hmm.
making sure that um, everybody has ample opportunity. So I think, developing collegiate leagues, developing challengers or amateur leagues, like these are big tasks that need to be done depending on what game that you're in, right? There's a lot of work to be done there. So I think just inclusivity, making sure that these spaces are inclusive, safe for everybody to
Hmm.
participate in, and just making sure everybody has ample opportunities for each game is a big, unique challenge in and of itself.
And on top of that, are there I'm gonna have you give us a prediction here. All right, drum roll prediction.
Ooh.
What are the esports that you think are gonna kind of blossom in that inclusivity space, and are there certain ones that you think will fall behind, kind of in that spot, or are there certain ones that you kind of warm up to a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, Valorant is leading the absolute way right now with their Game Changers program. I mean, they just had a $500,000 Game Changers League for women. Like,
Cool.
it's the coolest thing ever.
That's
It's the
awesome.
biggest prize pool for women ever. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing what they're doing. And I think a lot of esports will take a look at this, see the numbers behind it, because I think that their metrics were incredible. They had really great viewership. A lot of people are talking about it. Big hype league. And so it kind of is that testing ground and proving ground that like these types of things work, right?
Mhm.
So and what games can kind of learn from it, and how can we iterate on it and grow, these types of leagues and initiatives. So I thought that was a really, really cool first moving situation that we can all kind of follow, learn from, grow from, right? How do we iterate and
Mhm.
make this even bigger, badder, better? So I think Valorant in particular has been leading the way. And so
Mhm.
I'll see, we'll probably see more Riot game titles like
Mhm.
following suit, since that was a Riot game title. It's just my prediction, right? So I'd probably say that League of Legends, might be next in terms of, something along those lines. But
Carrying on to that, yeah.
that's just a guess. Yeah.
I mean, like, there's so many different ways that this space could go at this point. For all we know, Call of Duty could come out of nowhere and just be like, "Hey, wham, all women's league." Probably not going to happen because Call of Duty has been, an interesting spot for that over the years. But I think that's the coolest part about esports to me is just how it's just this big amoeba that is just going to be able to form and change and adjust as the years go on. And as we saw through COVID, gaming can survive. Remote broadcasting isn't the best. I'm a little bit biased against it, but it is very interesting to see how this space has evolved, and you've been a huge part of that, Halina. So, we appreciate you coming along with us. Thank you for answering all of my strange questions so far today. Halina Malik, not Halina Malik, also known as Blonde Venom, one of
Oh,
the
geez.
one of the great all-timers here in the esports space. We appreciate you hanging out with us. This has been another episode of the Magic Gaming Esports Academy, brought to you by Florida Blue. I'm Harris Rubenstein. Go follow Magic Gaming at Magic Gaming on Twitter, and go give him a follow on Twitch as well at Orlando Magic Gaming. We'll be back in a couple weeks for our next one, so stay tuned. Stay on Twitter. We'll see you guys next time.